Singers are on tonight, all dressed up and in colour with the M-I-M-I.
Dean Rodney Singers are on 72.
Just turn on your TV.
Well, my name is Dean Rodney, otherwise known as Dean Power, a member of the Fish Police, and I'm a guy who make the Dean Rodney Singers project.
My name's Charles Stuart and I'm the music mentor on the RS project.
And I'm Mark Williams and I'm the artistic director of Heart and Soul.
Well, it came from a dream that I had when I was 18. I was at this concert and I saw loads of musicians and people dancing and they were like performing different songs, and then I got a chance to interview the band. I said to them, "What's the name of your band?" They said DRS, and I said, "What does that mean?" And they said, "Oh, we don't know." And I said, "How about the Dean Rodney Singers?" And they said, "Yeah, that's a good idea, but who is Dean Rodney? Who is he?" And I said, "That's me." And they said, oh, you. Oh.
Dean and I were kind of working on some new ideas for new Fish Police songs, and Dean always had these words he'd come up with. He'd say something like, cocoa butter or fish water. Invariably, all these things became songs. And we actually had already had a song idea from past years of a song called M.I.M.I., which we did in the Heart and Soul youth group. And at that point, he kept saying, that's the Dean Rodney Singers, that is.
72.
72.
Old and new.
Old and new.
Met in a lunchtime queue. Sometime between 1 and 2.
We had an idea about being at some kind of a convention with people from different places all over the world, and they were all in this one place, and they all kind of met in this lunchtime queue and formed a band.
Dean Rodney Singers are on tonight, all dressed up and in colour with the M-I-M-I.
Well, actually, MIMI stands for, it's like mystery, independent, mission.
I'm sure that one gig someone asked us to explain it, and I said mustard, and Dean was like, yeah, mustard, yeah. It's because it changes from day to day. So we kind of decided to sit down and try and write a song about the Dean Rodney Singers.
Dean Rodney Singers are on 72.
And it just was at the time when I was open to a creative idea emerging naturally from Heart and Soul, and that, you know, something that would be very, very ambitious. I just remember hearing the story and thinking, wow, imagine if we could actually make the Dean Rodney Singers real. And then I asked Dean if he'd like to do that, and he said yes.
They came from 7 countries, like the UK, Germany, China, Croatia, Japan, South Africa, and Brazil. Drummers, recorders, dancers, and vocalists.
And what was really helpful is Dean was very clear about numbers. He was very clear about numbers of countries, about numbers of band members within the countries, about how many songs that they might be doing. This was when we began to realise that it actually didn't really have that much to do with performing the M.I.M.I. song. It was a completely different project, and it was about 23 pieces of music that didn't exist yet. Unlimited was and is part of the London 2012 Cultural Olympiad programme. Specifically, it was about providing a platform and a showcase for deaf and disabled artists to research, develop and perform new work, and the Dean Rodney Singers was one of the commissions. And getting the authenticity of Dean's artistic vision across was really key. And also, you know, the ambition. You know, Dean's a young man, it was a digital project, it was looking at working across 7 different countries. It was clearly an Olympic idea. It was the sort of thing that would never happen unless you had this amazing opportunity and the kind of resources and funding that could actually make it possible.
Yeah, so we had an original idea of creating about 23 to 25 pieces of very, very tiny bits of music. 2 bars here, 4 bars there, and they would consist of a very, very simple drum pattern, very, very simple bass line perhaps, a very simple chord progression perhaps a vocal idea, just, you know, 3 or 4 different things happening
across a 2 or a 4 bar kind of period, you know. And that was the beginning, and so we would have 23, 24 of those. And so each country would receive about 3 or 4 pieces of music. And then what would happen is each artist would receive that piece of music and send an idea back to us once they've been based upon that idea of music. And it would be that way. We'd send stuff to them, they send stuff to us on SoundCloud. SoundCloud would be the platform. And it was interesting, you know, because you're working with 72 different artists, and that's thousands and thousands, literally, of different sounds that you're getting and downloading and trying to figure out what you're going to use and what you're not going to use. It's a complete nightmare. But we got there.
Final version where those responses were put together, and a similar-ish thing going on with the video and the dance moves, but slightly different. It was more about people responding with the initial loops and then the developed loops with dance moves. So it was when Dean first encountered an iPad, and suddenly you just loved it, Dean, didn't you?
Yeah, I liked it.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
You remember what you did with Justin the first time?
Using the apps like IK Oscillator, MadPad, DM1, Video Star, Bebop, and GarageBand.
Yeah, I mean, just seeing Dean using the iPad, it was instantly obvious that this was the tool. You know, it was so much more accessible. And again, this was something that we hadn't known at the point of making the application. There was no mention of iPads in the first application that got us the money. So the learning from that is that we had to be very willing to change things all the time and not to be too attached to any one way of thinking this is how we were going to do the project. Because we really wanted to meet face-to-face the band members, and actually for them to meet face-to-face as well. And it was always part of Dean's vision that was what was going to happen. It wasn't ever going to be just a purely virtual project.
Yeah, I was quite curious about it, so I just started to think, I wonder who other band members are, and I was like wondering what will the countries will look like. So I have to thought about it, and then after that I went to the countries and I thought, so that's what it's all about.
The way that it really came about in detail was identifying the different country coordinators in each of the 7 countries. And once we'd got them on board, then they were able to really recruit. One of the characteristics of all of the trip is that Dean gets really very, very excited once the seatbelt has been strapped on and the plane is moving around the runway about to take off. And you suddenly feel as though you are in a video game with Dean and he is commenting on what's happening.
Yeah, here comes everyone.
And you know, it's at the point when the rest of the cabin has gone absolutely silent and it's 3:30 in the morning, and suddenly Dean has decided to really pump it up and is sounding particularly excited on a personal level the higher you get.
When the plane takes off, I was like going, yeah, woo, and making lots of noise and saying lots of random words like, it's time to get your feet off the floor and watch out for that fire. Here it comes, everyone.
I never ever got tired of it, ever, because you know people are kind of looking around. Who's this guy? You know what I mean?
Gentleman. Yes.
And I guess we were trying to share and replicate that sense of what it's like sitting next to Dean on an aeroplane when you enter the tunnel at the very beginning of the Dean Rodney Singers installation.
Forever and ever, yeah. Forever, forever and ever, yeah.
Again, you know, Dean was very clear that he wanted this mix of disabled and non-disabled artists, singers and musicians to come together. And really, it was unusual in every country, including this country, that that collection of individuals would be in the same room together. And I reckon they would never have been in the same room together if it hadn't been for this project. So it was really important to facilitate that, and it wasn't a big deal, and it was always fun, and it was liberating, and it was exciting, and people learnt new things, and it was done in a very unself-conscious way, and it wasn't really ever mentioned necessarily. You know, people weren't saying, this is my disability and I do this. It was just a collection of artists in a room who happened to be all coming from different places with different life experiences. And again, it was really powerful that Dean was leading that. And there didn't need to be a whole thing about Dean as this autistic artist. Dean was just Dean, and this is the way he sees the world, and you're being invited in to see it with him.
I need to get you, I wanna get you on my back so we could take a little night right into them ears.
So in the sessions, we always had a 2-3 hour slot where it was just about dance. Dance was quite a feature of Dean's original vision, and there was dancers involved across all the 7 countries.
Everywhere we went in the world, we took the M.I.M.I. song by the Fish Police. In every country, they were dancing to it. Groups learn the dance moves and they do their own dance moves to it. Like this and like that.
A lot of times it was hot and it was sticky, and we were staring at a screen for like a day and a half. And then at 4 p.m, everyone got a chance to just get up and do a bit of shaking, do a bit of dancing, and in every single country you went to, it was like an explosion. People would get up out of their seats and have a really good dance.
It was quite huge, and I was like, oh my gosh, that is the biggest dance moves that I've ever seen.
So the idea with the Dean Rodney Singers was always about identifying, working with the 72 musicians, singers and dancers from the 7 countries, creating the 23 original pieces of music and dance, but then it was about how to share and showcase those in an installation that was going to happen at the South Bank during the Paralympics.
Hi, I'm Dean Rodney, and welcome to the Dean Rodney Singers installation in London. Welcome to my world. Come inside and let me show you around. Enter inside a spaceship.
In the installation, it was more like a place where you go and play video games. There were like about 2 or 3 game machines. There was one called the D-Funk Era. There was the Dean J, the Dean Rodney Singers app, the Dean Dancing Machine, and the Dean Odium.
It's time to enter the Dean Dancing Machine.
Filled with lots of lights flashing around. And there were like pictures of the band members on one of the screens with different colors that represents each dimension.
Dimension Phantasmagoria. Color purple, China. Filled with things that are not real. It's an illusion. The land of the Golden Duke.
In the bit where the people entered the installation, because there was like a big TV screen with me doing one of the dance moves, and there was like about a couple of speaker boxes playing the music, and there were like ones with my voice saying something about the liftoff.
The Dean Rodney Singers universe comes from a dream that I had about 72 band members playing together from all over the world.
Also, to be able to take different elements of the music we make, put them together to make your own piece of music as well.
You sort of went through this like a tunnel of sound, which then you'd lifted off by the time you reached the end of that.
Ooh, yeah! Hold on tight! Whoa, yeah.
And you would have met all the 72 band members who were featured on screens on your right, and then there was different coloured vinyls which the light was shining in from outside and was also lit, so you experienced the 7 different colours of the Dean Rodney Singers universe. And then there was the giant version of the app which was created, again something that we hadn't necessarily anticipated at the beginning of the project. Very much this was something that the Goldsmiths Computational Arts Department designed, where you could visit each of the 7 different dimensions and then using your finger and the touchscreen app bring in different components of sound. So really, as an audience member, you could get as deep into the universe or as light touch. You could go through it and know nothing about the universe, or you could spend a lot of time and really get to know it. Yeah, it was definitely about trying to get into the way that Dean was thinking about this whole thing and have some real practical experience of what it's like being in Dean's head.
Is a dimension that looks like a kitchen, but it's inside the princess's stomach.
And of course, there was the DRS team.
Team Dean.
So the core of Team Dean included various mentors who worked with Dean.
Adele Jeffs.
She helped me working on the project by using visuals, different kinds of visual effects.
Adele Jeffs worked very closely with Dean, and they worked with dimensions. They got all the dimensions together, they gave dimensions names, and they thought of all different kinds of characters, that kind of thing.
Animation.
Made the wonderful films that we saw of the dimensions.
She does the film editing for the dance moves that I did and other videos.
Mel Simpson.
She taught me how to do the dance moves for the songs in the project, and she teach me the MI dance.
Alongside Charles, who developed the music tasters that we shared out to the 7 countries, Mel worked with Dean on the dance moves that we also shared out.
Justin Spooner.
Ideas man, digital ideas, digital advisor. But he basically came on board to try and figure out as well what it was we were doing on the digital platform.
Creative questions that we needed answering, or possibilities as to how to make them happen, and Justin would present us with lots of different options and help tease and brainstorm out the strategies and the ways we could actually make the ideas happen.
And not only that, but he obviously got involved at the end in the mixing process and with the music as well.
Becky Bell.
Was amazing kind of behind the scenes, took care of all logistics and making sure that things were booked, flights were booked, iPads would turn up in corners somewhere where they weren't before.
And was tying everything together and was linking with all of the 72 artists and the coordinators in the 7 countries and the inspiring mentors.
Tom Slater
was the production manager at the installation and also the sound designer. It was really good because high quality sound is key to Heart and Soul and was key to this project.
You are now one of the Dean Rodney Singers.
The Dean Rodney Singers was a partnership with Sound and Music, who put us in touch with Goldsmiths College and Dr. Mick Grierson. So the Computational Arts Department were key, particularly in realising how the installation was going to work and making the interactive machines that we featured very key towards the latter bit of the project, specifically the installation bit.
When we sleep, we dream. What we dream about can sometimes become a reality.
I learned a lot of things. I learned the dance moves for songs in the project, using different apps and a very interactive way of using different things in a different way of making music. Very different.
The thing that opened my eyes more than anything else was the ease with which you can work with another musician in another part of the world. I could chuck a drum pattern down and a bass line and send it to somebody in Moscow, and they could add a chord progression and a vocal idea on top of that and send it back to me. That kind of thing, which I'd never done before. A lot easier to do nowadays. It's incredible, it's crazy. Another thing was working with different artists from the different countries, experiencing different musical cultures, all those things, so many different things really.
We're still exploring, you know. I think what was exciting about the whole project is it really put innovation at the heart of what we do, and also got people to be comfortable being in a space where we don't know everything. In fact, we probably only maybe slightly know a little bit more than the people we're sharing with, but that makes it very exciting. And that sort of journey is where Heart and Soul is and wants to continue to be on.
It was kind of huge, and I was like, oh my gosh,